Hello there, everyone. My name is Adam, you the coach of your Torgoth Catalyst, and although there's not a new DDD video, there's a new cat clawing at my car. Um, I do have a new draft league for you all today. We have joined a new draft league that's starting up its first season, the Unown Draft League, which is a draft league with a lot of different tiers. They have a standard National Dex draft, they have Paldea Dex draft, they have hell VGC draft, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon divisions too, and they also have the division that I am joining, which is the low tier division. Now, obviously, on Pokemon YouTube, low tier divisions have had a massive resurgence, having such draft leagues as the P4G being run with the big name YouTubers like PokeMMD, or LTM, which is a low tier mayhem, which has a couple of my friends, including but not limited to my goat J-Scurf. So, low tier drafts have had a bit of a resurgence, and I'm finally entering my hat to the ring despite not being a part of this draft league at the beginning. So UDL, they had their draft, like I was not there when the draft started. Spoiler alert, I'm a replacement coach joining in like pretty much the middle of the season almost. The team I took over was 0-2 and I did not really agree with a lot of the choices they made. So, yeah. But regardless, I wanted to record this draft league. So, I I had no plan going into the draft because I wasn't even in the draft. So that is something fun to note. But I knew going into the grace period, whenever I took over the team, I wanted a very, very strong offensive core. And it starts out with my first pick being Gardevoir. So Gardevoir is a Psychic Fairy type Pokemon. Pretty high special attack for a low tier draft. Generally low tiers, like you don't have to go very, very crazy with the stats. But Gardevoir is like one of the most fearsome special attackers in low tier. Having a base 125 special attack stat, access to Mystical Fire, Psychic and Fairy Stab, Thunderbolt as well, among other moves. So Gardevoir gets like very, very nice coverage for, being a Psychic Fairy type, and yeah, it just hits everything hard. Really nothing to complain about except its middling bulk and its inability to take on steel types. So, yeah, that is something that I really wanted to patch up, and it's something I did patch up with the next pick. Gardevoir also struggles to come in on some Pokemon. It often needs a nice slow pivot to get it in safely, and that's where Incineroar, my next pick, comes in. It's a fire dark type with Intimidate to help lessen the burden on physical attacks, because Gardevoir is very much not physically bulky. And yeah, you can also see a bit of nice synergy we have going on. Incineroar is weak to fighting types, and Gardevoir takes care of fighting types. Gardevoir is weak to steel types, and Incineroar takes care of steel types. So very, very nice little synergy we have going here. Incineroar has a slower base 60 speed tier with access to Parting Shot to lower opponent's stats so Gardevoir gets set up, or just flat out U-turn out. So, yeah, it also has knockoff to remove items, so Gardevoir can get some chip from Stealth Rock or Spites, from like removal of boots to secure 2-hit KOs. It's a very, very beneficial situation. Incineroar can also remove an item called Assault Vest, which boosts a Pokemon's special defense by 1.5 times. So that's very helpful. Aside from speed, Incineroar does not have a bad stat. Being able to reliably run both physical and special sets, which special Incineroar is definitely something that's better in like Nat decks, but in a Paldea Dex low tier draft, it could be underrated. But I'll mostly be relying on a physical set with like knockoff and everything. Parting Shot's a very nice option to get Gardevoir in like pretty much a better situation. and Incineroar is just like generally really, really bulky. So he's the GOAT in VGC for a reason, and he's pretty good in singles too. I also want it on the record that the last time that I drafted Incineroar with a Psychic Fairy special attacker was one of my championship teams. So yeah, it was TCT Season 1 all the way back in 2021, which is a long, long time ago. So yeah, that is the Incineroar pick. And next up, Incineroar was on the team originally, and same was Tinkaton. So Incineroar and Tinkaton are the only two Pokemon I kept from the original team, and yeah, it's saying something if I keep a Tinkaton, because I do not like this Pokemon a lot, but it was the best Steel type available. So Tinkaton is a very, very support-oriented Pokemon. It has a great Fairy Steel type. It doesn't share a weakness with Gardevoir, which is very, very nice for like doubling up on a Fairy type. So it's only weak to like Fire and Ground, and Gardevoir is weak to like Steel and Poison, and Tinkaton actually has an immunity to poison out of virtue of having the Steel type. So yeah, it has Mold Breaker for its ability, which is going to be its primary ability, being able to get around stuff like Levitate, hit those with ground type moves, or Sturdy, being able to OHKO Pokemon. It's a nice ability to have, but it doesn't really have a very good ability, so it often runs a Mold Breaker. Its signature move is Gigaton Hammer, which is it's either a 140 or a 160 base power physical steel type move that you can't select twice in a row. It's like Ursaluna Blood Moon's Blood Moon. So yeah, it is a very, very powerful attack, but it can't be spammed. Which is fortunate for Tinkaton because it gets very, very good support moves like Thunder Wave, Stealth Rock, and Encore. And it also gets a knockoff to keep the theme of item removal going on this team. It has a nice base 94 speed tier and solid bulk all around for a low tier draft. And yeah, I am honestly a little excited to try out Tinkaton in this draft week. I often give it crap for not being good in like standard Natdex draft weeks, but maybe it can shine in a low tier draft league. And continuing on the trend of wanting to build up a fearsome offense, we have Heracross, the other Mon in the thumbnail. So Heracross Gardevoir make pretty much an unwallable combination of Pokemon. Heracross having the nice 125 base attack stat, being boosted by Guts with a Flame Orb. Guts gives it a free +1 boost to attack, which is a 1.5 times boost. And it just has to take a little bit of recoil damage every turn from a Flame Orb. But Guts Heracross is a very, very hard Pokemon to switch into. So, yeah, it has a nice base 85 speed tier, bridging the gap between Gardevoir and Tinkaton a bit. Solid bulk, to be honest, with 80, 75, and or not 195. Imagine if it had 195 and just 95. Like, it's very, very solid, and it also shores up a bit of a ground weakness we have going with Incineroar Tinkaton, because Bug type resists ground types. And yeah, that is pretty much it. It also gets knockoff, so we have a very, very strong knockoff going. So yeah. Moxie is also an availability for Heracross if I want to run like a Choice Scarf set some week, which Gardevoir or Heracross will want to run a Choice Scarf set pretty much every week because those are some of its best sets. But Heracross can run Scarf with Moxie to boost its attack after scoring a knockout. And yeah, generally if a move is spammable, Scarf Moxie can generally take advantage of that. So next up we have Noivern. We have spent a ton of points. Every single Pokemon so far has been above 16 points. So we spent a lot of points, and we're going to continue to spend a lot of points. There's 120 points to throw around in this draft, but yeah. Noivern is the dedicated speed Pokemon. This was originally Talonflame, but I wanted to incorporate Incineroar onto this draft So Noivern was the next best thing available. It's a dragon flying type with 123 base speed. It gets fun moves like not knock off. Uh, I mean, no, it doesn't get knock off. It gets a switcheroo to do some item trickeration. It gets does it get switcheroo in Paldex? I think it does, but it gets defog mainly. Defog to remove hazards from our side of the field and the opponent's side too, but defog to remove hazards for Gardevoir and Heracross to keep coming in, or a non-heavy duty boots Incineroar to keep coming in is going to be crucial. I also have two great abilities on this with Frisk to scout what item a Pokemon has. Whenever it switches in, Frisk will reveal what item the opposing Pokemon has. And Infiltrator can cause normal amounts of damage through things like Substitute or like Light Screen and Reflect. It hits through Substitute, which is super good for my team, and being able to hit through Light Screen and Reflect is really nice anyways. But it has pretty middling stats. Base 80, it's surprisingly bulky for base 85 and then two base 80s in both defenses. But 97 special attack is nothing to really scoff at. This thing can hit surprisingly hard with specs. But yeah, that is pretty much Noivern in a nutshell. I don't have a lot to say about it because I've not really drafted it in a while. It can also pivot with U-turn to get Gardevoir and Heracross in, or I could just like pivot into Incineroar to take advantage of incoming Ice-type attacks, or to Tinkaton to take advantage of incoming Dragon-type attacks, or even Rock-type attacks. But yeah, that is Noivern, and next up we have Tentacruel. Now, I tried out Tentacruel in the last RPA season, and it went, not the best, but I hope it can shine better in a low-tier draft. Tentacruel is a nice water poison type, Queer Body, Liquid Ooze, and Rain Dish. All are, like, pretty niche, but not bad abilities. It'll probably be running Liquid Ooze to just, like, hurt any Pokemon who want to use Leech Seed. And it has pretty middling stats. Once again, it has a really good special defense and a solid speed stat, and it has access to really good utility moves like Rapid Spin, once again Knockoff, Flip Turn to Pivot, and it gets access to Toxic and Toxic Spikes, I think. So, Tentacruel is a very solid Pokemon for my team to have. I think it also gets like Scald, maybe, to potentially get burns on things, but its main bread and butter is going to be Rapid Spin, Flip Turn, Knockoff, pretty much every week, and then some filler move. I really enjoy having Tentacruel on the team, and I want to see if I can give it its due justice. So, yeah, its defense stat is pretty bad, but I hope I can get around that with, like, Incineroar and some physically defensive Pokemon, which I have another physically defensive Pokemon right now, being Palisand. So Palisand goes ground type, water compaction for its ability, because I don't think I can run Sandvale in this league. Water compaction boosts Palisand's defense by two stages, which is a 2 times buff, if it is hit with a water type move, which is a super fun and niche ability, but it's very bulky, having a base 85 HP stat, 110 defense, and 75 special defense. Being able to ease the burden of defense on like Incineroar and Tentacruel and Tinkaton. So, yeah, it hits decently hard with the 100 special attack stat, but its main niche is going to be defense. It gets stuff like Energy Ball. Oh, no, it gets Giga Drain, not Energy Ball. It gets Earth Power, and it gets Shadow Ball to hit things with. I don't know where I was going with that, but it gets Stealth Rock. I forget if it gets Thunder Wave. I don't think it does, but I know it gets Rocks at least, which is very invaluable for this team, alleviating pressure on Tinkaton to quick Rocks, and then vice versa for Tinkaton quicking Rocks to alleviate pressure on Palisand. So, yeah, that is Palisand in a nutshell. It gets recovery with the move Shore Up, which it just recovers like half its health. And yeah, I really like having recovery since Tentacruel doesn't. Next up, we have Quilladin. Now, at this stage in the draft, we only had 8 points because we spent a lot of points. So, Quilladin was like the best grass type that was like very, very low tier. This is like 5 points. So, it's a its stats look pretty bad. It has a super nice defense stat, but its stats look pretty bad on the surface, but that gets alleviated due to having access to the item of Violite, which boosts defense and special defense by 1.5 times if the Pokemon can evolve. Fortunately, this Pokemon can evolve, but so yeah, it gets access to a Violite boost, and that really, really helps this Pokemon in the bulk department. This thing can alleviate pressure on the many, many ground types that are going to target our team because Heracross and Noivern don't want to keep coming in on those hits, and Quilladin can get off a Leech Seed to get passive chip and keep the team like passively healthy. This thing also gets access to spikes to add another layer of entry hazards onto my opponents. And I forget if it gets access to knockoff too, but it may. But Quilladin is a super, super nice Pokemon. I was debating getting Grottle in this slot, but Quilladin gave spikes, and yeah, that's something that my team just did not have aside from Heracross, which doesn't want to set spikes. So that is Quilladin, and at this point, I only have 3 points, so the next few Pokemon are going to be kind of trash, but I decided to just try and get some value. So I got Pachirisu out of 2 points. This is the electric type with a base 95 speed. You may know it as the world champion of 2000, I think it's 2014. It won a world championship in Pokemon being or eating like a Mega Salamence Draco Meteor. So Pachirisu, it's a pretty underrated Pokemon. It was only 2 points in this. It gets access to fun moves like Nuzzle and Super Fang, and it can also pivot with U-turn and Volt Switch. I think it also gets knockoff. So we have a lot of knockoff users, but Nuzzle to get a paralysis on something to slow things down for Gardevoir and Mega Heracross is going to be huge. Super Fang weakens things. It cuts their HP in half from whatever their current HP is. So if it's 100% HP, they'll get cut down to half health. If they're at half health, they get cut down to 25%. And yeah, U-turn, Volt Switch for pivoting, and yeah, that's Pachirisu. It's a solid Pokemon. It has an electric immunity with Volt Absorb, alleviating a bit of pressure on Palossand, but yeah. Finally, we have Minccino. So this was originally Eevee, but I saw Minccino down there and was just like, why not? It gets knockoff, it gets U-turn, it gets tidy up for another form of hazard removal, and it has very, very bad stats, but a 75 base speed tier, which made my speed tier OCD happy. So it's a normal type with Technician and Skill Link for its abilities. Skill Link is going to be pretty helpful if I want to run like a sweeping set some week, like maybe week 8 if I'm already secured playoffs. I can run like a Skill Link set with like Tail Slap, Bullet Seed, and Rock Blast with Tidy Up. Basically a budget Cinccino. I mean, it literally is a budget Cinccino, so yeah, that is that's a very, very quick rundown of this team. It is a it is a very, very interesting team. We have one, two, three, four, five pivots, though only like 3 of them want to come to games. Pachirisu could come to a game, but yeah. We have solid pivoting on this team, but the real bread and butter is going to be the Gardevoir Heracross duo combined with the support that Incineroar is going to give him. So, yeah, this is my first attempt at like a proper low tier draft league, and I'm hoping it's going to go pretty well. I do seem to have like a really, really good team. I've stacked it with like really, really high tier threats, and yeah, the Gardevoir Heracross duo is going to be hopefully unstoppable on offense. It is very prone to revenge killers, though, so I'm going to have to keep Noivern to revenge kill those things, but yeah, Incineroar to get these things in safely is going to be really, really neat and just really, really good because Gardevoir Heracross can struggle to come in sometimes, and having a slow pivot like that helps a ton. But at any rate, I will catch you all in the week 3 battle because my team started out 0-2 and they dropped from the league, and yeah, they would have started out 0-3, but my week 3 opponent was very, very gracious in letting me make the moves and be willing to redo our game and won't actually do our game because the opponent forfeited. But I will catch you all in when that game happens. So, till next time, peace.